Deeply shocking. Nigel Farage faces fresh claims of racism and anti-Semitism at school. They had to go this far back. They had to go that far back to get him. I mean, that just makes him look cool. I mean, I don't like him. I would never work with a guy again. Uh, I hate going into this, but I'll do it at the end. BAFTA-winning director among contemporaries urging contrition and apology from Reform UK leader who denies the allegations. It is the hectoring tone, the jeering quality in Nigel Farage's voice today that brings it all back for Peter Edgy. He would sidle up to me and growl, Hitler was right, or gas them, sometimes adding a long hiss to simulate the sound of the gas showers. You've never been in a Discord, have you? Edgy says of his experience of being in a class with Farage at Dulwich College in South London. Edgy, 61, is a BAFTA and Emmy-winning director and producer whose credits include Kinky Boots, McQueen, and Super Slash Man, the Christopher Reeve story. Back then, he was a 13-year-old boy at a loss as to how to handle what he describes as a sudden and inexplicable intrusion of anti-Semitism in his life. It's not an intrusion. Open your arms. Embrace it. This is the first time Edgy has spoken in such detail of his alleged experiences, but he is not the only one. I think, isn't it funny that there's actually a very, very high chance of us getting Prime Minister Nigel Farage? There's a very high chance of it happening, and now I remember something from 1974, and blah, blah, like that always happens, and this is how far back they're having to dig. In recent weeks, The Guardian has heard allegations from more than a dozen school contemporaries of Farage who recount incidents of deeply offensive behaviour throughout his teenage years. Wow, when he was a teenager? Well, that's so weird, because teenagers are always so smart and intelligent and non-offensive, and they just definitely have a lot of scruples and stuff like that. They definitely don't fuck around and say mad shit because they're teenagers. I mean, I wish he was saying it now, but anyway, this is not the whole picture. Others who knew Farage then remember he was bumptious, rude, provocative, and enjoyed being the centre of attention. That last part, I believe, but do not recall the behaviour described by Edgy and others. There is no claim that Farage the man must still hold the same views as the ones ascribed to Farage the boy. I definitely don't hold the same. I used to be a fucking loser communist way back in the day. I'm going to get outed as cringe. But anyway, but their memories of him left marks, ones that haven't dissolved with the passage of time, and are often revealed again when he talks about issues such as immigration. I remember what a boy said to me in 1976. Nigel Farage came up to me in the playground, and he called me gay. Well, were you being gay? Were you being gay? It's a valid point to ask. What were you wearing? They say they want to see a more moral clarity from a man who could be Britain's next Prime Minister. What is troubling, one explained, is the lack of contrition in the intervening decades. A couple of ex-pupils who have spoken to The Guardian say that they are deeply ashamed of their own part in singing racist songs. But that's the best part about walking home from the pub. The question that someone answered is, what about Farage? Just hearing that aggressive hectoring tone again, my blood ran cold, Peter Edgy. So hold on, my blood ran cold because of someone saying an edgy comment to you 40 years ago. You're a massive pussy. You're a genuine massive pussy. He called me names and then he said Hitler, LOL. Oh, I have nightmares and night terrors about it. Shut up, Peter. You deserve getting stuffed in a locker. When claims of this kind were first made about him more than a decade ago, Farage admitted saying some ridiculous things, not necessarily racist things. It depends on how you define it, because he was a teenager. Teenagers say dumb stuff all the time. Now, though, the man whose party is leading in all major opinion polls and says he expects to be in Downing Street appears to have changed tack. In legal letters to The Guardian, he has emphatically denied saying anything racist or anti-Semitic when he was a teenager. Because that's something you just do. You were like, that's 40 years ago. Nobody had phones. Nobody was recording. Just go, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And you could just say that this was all politically motivated because most of the attacks on anything right-wing are. It's not, I just wanted to bring a bad man to justice. It's never just that. It's like, it's because he's right wing. That's why. Like, that's why you're doing it. All of that stuff we just know is politically motivated. He has also questioned whether there is any public interest in airing allegations that date back over 40 years. After weeks of asking, a spokesperson for Reform UK gave a statement. These allegations are entirely without foundation, they said. The Guardian has produced no contemporaneous record or corroborating evidence to support these disputed recollections from nearly 50 years ago. I wasn't his only target. I was targeted by him. For a Edgy, it is a question of character. My grandparents had escaped from Nazi Germany and had always talked with deep gratitude about how they felt welcome in the UK, he says. Give me a moment. Just a moment. Yep, thought so. My grandparents, I've just read that. I'd never experienced anti Semitism growing up, so the first time that this vicious verbal abuse came out of Farage's mouth was deeply shocking. But I wasn't his only target. I'd hear him calling other students Paki or Wog and urging them to go home. Wow, what unusual language for the 70s. But anyway, I tried to ignore him, but it was humiliating. It was shaming. This kind of abuse cuts through to the core of your identity. Edgy says he didn't feel he could talk about it with his family or teachers. So I just buried the whole experience and got on with it. You're talking like you were fucking sexually assaulted or some shit like that. Somebody said some spicy things to me in school. Man, like fucking shut up. Many years later, a friend sent me a link to a video of Farage berating EU commissioners. Just hearing that aggressive, hectoring tone again, my blood ran cold. Farage could suddenly switch from hostility and become disarmingly affable, even charming, Edgy says. But from my experience, there's no doubt in my mind that he was a profoundly precociously racist teenager. Aren't we all? I'd like to know why he's never owned up or shown the slightest contrition. Maybe it's because he was a fucking teenager and it's stuff he did when he was a child. Maybe it's that. Like, I said some rude things in school, mostly to teachers. I'm not apologising for them. Mrs. Woods had it coming. She was a fucking bitch. Farage at the time was 13 or 14, too young to know better. I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, no offence. But 13, 14-year-olds are retards. Like, genuine mind-numbing idiots, right? So I don't really care about anything you did when you were 13 or 14 or what opinions you held when you were 13 or 14. Where's that tweet that says, the fact that I can log on to Twitter and see the political opinion of a 14-year-old should be considered a war crime? And that's true. A second pupil from a minority ethnic background claimed he was similarly targeted by a 17-year-old Farage. I was very small in one of the junior classes of the time, and you know that the sixth formers were probably 17, very tall, much taller than me, he said. And that person's walk, it's the same walk he has now. I'll never forget it. It's weird how they're trying to do this whole I was so traumatized by this years later. It's weird how they kind of, they're all leaning, and the stories are all like, leaning, I'll never forget that voice, I'll never forget that walk. That's weird. It's almost like they were given a script beforehand and said, say things like XYZ. He walked up to a pupil flanked by two similarly tall mates, his goons, who only answered him like, yes, boss. Right away, boss. Asking me where I was from and pointed away, saying, that's the way back to wherever you replied you were from. It says, why is he walking up to people like a fucking anime protagonist with his goons, pure... Did he wear glasses? Were they like shining white? And did he go, Wog? Like, what? Why is this? This is so weird. And it was a very horrible ordeal. Honestly, at the time, it was just quite perplexing. Walking from the upper school via the middle school, past different amenities, through a gap into the lower school playground, right? Make sure you're very, very accurate and detailed to prove that you really were there and did experience this, and it also shows you have a very good memory. Remember to write that down in your statement. You've walked all that distance to do what you want to do. I thought to come over and just say that. I mean, he will never be forgotten. There it is again. There it is again. The former pupil said sometimes Farage and others would wait at the lower school gate for pupils being dropped off by their parents. The thought of it still creates fear and anger within me. It's like, the moment they get out of the car, we have to be racist to them, lads, right? So you need to get in there quick. So I'm going to stand there, dropped off by the parents, make sure to say it to the mum and dad too. You got to let them know. Right, I need to make sure that before you even get into the school, I'm being racist to you. I mean, that one thing, that's what you want in a Prime Minister. Dedication. Dedication and a stitch in time saves 9. The thought of it still creates fear and anger within me, and the look you get from a person who does not see your humanity, but just that you look different and has reached a conclusion about you before you even open your mouth to speak. It's a look I have received many times in my life, and it's a look you simply never forget. There it is again. That feeling you get when being dropped off at school, and just as you've got out of the car, happy to go to school. Who the fuck was happy to go to school? You can see the group of taller pupils waiting to inflict mental damage, and then you are totally deflated. Age 9, no one should have to go through that. It's hard to understand why such a person would dedicate so much time to it, but it is even more worrying that if such a person misused his minor position of power at the time so instinctively, what such a person would do with more power. And there it is. They're like, shit, there actually might be Prime Minister Farage. We better get in there. We better get in there early, boys. It's a trust thing. Critics and supporters of Farage may argue over whether it is fair to judge him on what he is alleged to have said as a teenager. I would say it's extremely unfair, especially since the man is in like his 60s, 70s, something like that. I would say it's extremely unfair to judge someone for something that they did when they were a teenager, when it was literally 40, 50 years ago. Yeah, I would say it was very unfair, especially when Britain was a much different place back then. But one thing seems certain. The scrutiny of his life will continue and probably intensify. For more than 3 decades, he has been a fixture of the British political scene, arguably a weather maker like no other. He helped to secure Brexit in 2016, and reform is posing an existential threat to the Conservative Party, as well as eating into Labour's vote. It is why Keir Starmer made Farage the focus of his speech at the Labour Party conference, accusing him of crossing a moral line. In the run-up to it, the Prime Minister had labelled Reform's policy of scrapping indefinite leave to remain as racist and immoral. Nope, it's just us using our sovereign rights as a nation. Get the fuck out. The Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy... I keep forgetting he's Deputy PM. Anyway, went on to claim in a television interview that Farage had flirted with the Hitler Youth as a young man. What? They weren't even around anymore when he was born. A comment that was described as disgusting and libelous by unnamed Reform sources. Lammy subsequently clarified that Farage had denied such claims. When was Farage even born? The Hitler Youth were long gone. They were long gone by the time he was born, so what the fuck? Lammy saying dumb shit. Okay, yeah, what's new? The Deputy Prime Minister had been referencing allegations reported by Michael Crick when he was a reporter for Channel 4 News in 2013, and then in a book he published in 2022. Crick had obtained a letter from an English teacher at Dulwich College, Chloe Deacon. In it, she had opposed a decision in 1981 by the Master of Dulwich College to make Farage a prefect when he was 17, describing him as having publicly professed racist and neo-fascist views. They're proper going into him. We're now writing to people that were at his school and what the school he went to dig up. Do you want his permanent record? Do you want all the times he was in detention? Do you want all the punnies and everything that he got as well? Remember punnies? I fucking do. Deacon, who did not know Farage personally, went on to say that a colleague had reported that at a combined cadet force camp organised by the college, Farage and others had marched through a quiet Sussex village very late at night, shouting Hitler Youth songs. I didn't even know there were songs. I'm slacking. Bob Jope, 74, a teacher at the school at the time, told The Guardian he remembered Deacon's letter and how it had been written after a staff meeting where the issue of prefects was discussed. Wow, 40, 50 years ago, and you remember that? All of these people have really great memories. I don't remember the vast majority of school. Genuinely don't remember it. I seen some shit when I was in there. But, yeah, I genuinely don't remember the vast majority of school. But everyone here, just such great memories. On this particular meeting, it was by Dulwich standards quite dramatic. A number of people spoke up, expressing anxiety about Farage being a prefect. And a few spoke in his defence, fewer in fact. The main thing seemed to be that his attitude towards some of the younger boys and his attitudes towards those of other races weren't necessarily making him an ideal prefect. That was the feeling, that he wasn't kind of the right thing to be sort of prefect material. Some staff had heard things about things he's meant to have said on CCF training weekends and so on, which he later denied having ever said or done. But again, these things came out at the meeting. The reason I think things were so controversial was that at the end of the meeting, the master said words to the effect, "This doesn't sound quite the right sort of person to be made a prefect." Very soon after, the list of new prefects went up on the board, and his name was there. So you get made a prefect anyway. The CCF at Dulwich College was a youth organisation sponsored by the Ministry of Defence, and Farage was a keen member in the Army Division. The Guardian has spoken to 7 fellow members of the CCF. Look at this, they're digging into everything to get them. Including 2 who marched with Farage in Sussex, where Deacon alleged he sang Hitler Youth songs. None of them recalled those specific songs being sung. But there are other memories that some feel have not been acknowledged in Reform's angry denunciation of Lammy's comments. How much of this is I have to go? I'm very, very sorry, guys. I didn't expect this to take so long. Look, basically, I believe it's a net positive in some way. I believe it's a net positive that Farage is in Parliament, and I do believe there would be some kind of net positive to him being PM. It's definitely not going to be what we want. I'm going to deport them. Ha, will I, won't I? Maybe. I'll change my mind every week. Oh no, optics cocked, and then the next minute I'm not. Ha, and everyone like, it's just, I don't know where he stands. Right, it's still a net positive him being there, and maybe he actually will do something about it. However, as somebody that has worked with Nigel Farage, the thing that he cares the thing that he cares the most about is being the prettiest girl at the ball. He doesn't like other people one-upping him. He doesn't like it. Like, see, for example, me, like, for the longest time I wanted a codified British constitution. I still do. It would still be kind of nice, but the problem is that then gets upheld by the state. And we all know what they're like, right? But still, let's say a codified British constitution. It's not the ideal thing, but it's a step in the right direction, right? See if some new upstart comes up, much handsomer than me, full head of hair, young, buff, thin, six-pack, all that shit, better talking points and all that stuff comes along, and he actually manages to get a codified constitution, and I'd be like, fucking follow that guy, I don't give a shit. I don't want your love or adoration. I want human fucking rights, right? I don't give a shit about that. Follow that kid, right? That's what I would say to people. Nigel Farage would immediately fucking get private investigators or do a bunch of shit to fuck over that kid's career, right? Because he doesn't want the good things. He wants to be praised for the good things. He wants the credit. He wants to be the prettiest girl at the ball, which is why he couldn't fucking stand it when he had basically spiritually checked out of UKIP and Gerard Batten took over, right? And Gerard Batten did a fucking great job. Right, and everybody, I still to this day, oh, you and Sargon destroyed UKIP. My guy, I was there. I was in the meetings. I know exactly what happened. Nigel Farage had a fucking shit fit because he wasn't the prettiest girl at the ball anymore, and he quit the party and took the voters with him. Right, and there was this whole, I left because Tommy Robinson was going to join, and I was very upset about that. And then literally a week later, I had the Reform Party, who were fully eligible and signed to run in European elections. It takes 6 months alone to file the fucking paperwork. My computer died. But anyway, it takes 6 months alone to, like, file the paperwork. Right, so that's the problem. So he had this planned for, like, a long time. right? And then he formed the Reform Party, and they did very well. They totally nabbed all of UKIP's voters, but whatever, it's fine. Farage is Mr. Brexit. They weren't voting for the party, they were voting for the face. Whatever, that's fine. And then he did Reform, and then Rupert Lowe got a little bit too big for his boots. People started liking him a lot more because he was saying the things that people liked. He was saying the things that people wanted. And then Farage started getting PTSD about another Gerald Batten happening, and Farage booted him out the party. Rupert Lowe could have done a lot of good in Reform, right? That's the problem. That's the issue, right? It is still a net positive that he is in there, right? But at the end of the day, he's not in it for you. He's not in it for me. He's not in it for the British people. He's in it for himself, right? So let him wear all his laurels and get his fancy Prime Minister thing and all that. If some good comes out of it, fine, whatever. But just remember that he's not that trustworthy.